Hello and welcome to the beautiful Shipley Glen, and in this video we're going to be delving into a lot of the historic attractions that appeared here in the Victorian heyday. Let's start down the bottom of Prod Lane and towards the Shipley Glen Tramway. So here we are at the end of Prod Lane and the other side of Shipley Glen, and who remembers right here there been some vintage Dodgem cars on this plinth right here. I remember as a kid walking up the path or getting a tram, which is just here, the tramway, and coming out and seeing these old retro Dodgems from the 1920s, or they look like it anyway. The cars were really old, and it was just one attraction right here, run by the same family for a long time, I'm told anyway. But as you can see, they were demolished probably, I don't know, 20 years ago now. They did sit here abandoned for a long time, and they ended up getting demolished because they needed too much money spending on them. And obviously the foot traffic, as you can see, is no longer here. So the things like this, if you don't use it, you will lose it. What we're going to take a look at next is what was known as the Japanese Gardens, which was just a house on the right up here. Now you won't see much today. I'll try and get you a drone shot of that. But the actual Japanese garden layout is still there, even though there's a house built on the site now. So the Japanese Gardens was situated right behind this house. I'm going to zoom in for you and you can just see some trees on a little island in the garden. They were the original trees and the original plants on the centre. And you can just see, if I zoom in, a little bit of a wall there. That's again from the original Japanese Gardens. And I didn't think that that wall was still there. But it's basically a concrete wall that the owner built. It was basically a guy that owned a house next to the Japanese Gardens here. And he built these gardens to catch the tourists walking up and down to the tramway and come in. And he had a little boat ride and a couple of fairground rides. And also something called the Chicken, which apparently was some form of, I don't know, like a merry-go-round that came from Blackpool Pleasure Beach that was situated there as well. And the boat ride used to go around the island, and he also had all these concrete walls that he built himself, and it made them look like a grotto or a castle, and they actually had a grotto in there as well. So it was all very surreal and strange. When you look at it now, it's a residential street, but it always was. There's not as many houses on it back then, but there were still houses here. And you walk down and you wouldn't think this was some kind of an attraction. But all the houses along this street had some kind of a tea room at the end of the garden or a cafe and little attractions in the garden. There's also another one just further up here, which we'll check out shortly. So this would have been the entrance into the Japanese Gardens, and they were just on the left up here. Now it's a private property today, so we can't head in there and show you. And there's houses built on the back of it, and also this house on the front, which wasn't here originally. So let's get the drone up and I'll try zoom in for you just so you can see the layout of the garden from above. It's nothing that you can't see from Google Earth, so I'm not trespassing or anything like that. But you can see the layout right there that's still there today. Now what you can see is the little island in the middle where the boat ride would have gone round, and you can still see on the bottom left there part of the original grotto that still survives today. So you have the tramway at the end. Then you've got the fairground that was here on the right, the Japanese Gardens and tea rooms, and also something a bit further up, but we'll keep heading on. So as we're heading up towards the Glen and up Prod Lane, right there where those new houses are, and again, they're not that new, but new in terms of what was here back in the day. All of this land here was part of the Glen Pub, which is just up here, or which used to be a hotel with attractions, and one of the original sections of Shipley Glen. We'll have a look at that shortly. All this land here had attractions on it as well. And right there where these houses are was a large circular railway, which obviously isn't there today, and there's no sign of it whatsoever because it's directly where that house is in the middle there. And what it was just basically what it says on the name, a circular railway. It used to go round in a circle. So I'm told a little rumour, and again, I don't know how true this is, the original Switchback Railway, which we will take a look at shortly on the Glen, came from the Saltaire exhibition in the 1800s, And basically it came with 4 or 5 cars. And what they did was they reused them. So they were bought by the entrepreneur up here on the Glen, and he reused the cars on multiple attractions. So one of them, or 2 of them, was used on the circular railway in the garden down here. And then he used 2 of them on the Switchback Railway. And also, I'm told, 2 of them may have been used on the aerial flight, which again is up on the Glen. We've reached the top of Prod Lane and what is the Old Glen House, which is still here today and still having a roaring trade, which is good to see. But this was one of the original attractions at the top here, and it's where a lot of the Victorian stuff here started. They basically turned this into a bit of a tea room and a hotel and a bar, and they built a load of attractions in the car park down here and on the land of the property, which, like I said, in the old days used to go all the way down here. But it's now, as you can see, covered in housing. And that circular railway that we were looking at was just down there with the big houses. And they still have the pub today, and also they still have a tea room. We're now making our way onto the actual Glen, which they believe was formed in the Ice Age, hence all the massive boulders that's up here. We've just left the Old Glen House, which, like I said, was one of the original attractions here on the Glen. There's lots of strange rock formations up here. Some of them have very, very old carvings in them and strange markings as well. There's lots of myths, legends and tales of what happened up here many years ago. There's even a stone circle up here, a very old stone circle, but it's a great place to bring the kids. I used to come up here as a child all the time. We loved the little caves and the little clambering around the boulders and everything like that, looking for the patterns in the stones, and then having an ice cream, obviously, at the pub. But why don't you come, get the tram up, have a look around the Glen, and then get the tram back down. That'll be a great day out. So I'm going to do a photo fade now, taken from here on the Glen, looking towards the Old Glen House pub, and it shows a very busy Shipley Glen. And I don't think it's that old, this photo, probably 1970s, 60s maybe. But I found the exact stones that's in the photograph. So let's cut to the photo fade now, and you'll see those 2 stones right there in the picture. But it's taken me about 40 minutes to find the exact stones. So we're now approaching Bracken Hall, which is a free museum run by the council all about the area and Shipley Glen. It's in this building right behind me here. So we'll pop in there and have a look round. But it's also the location of where they had the original Switchback Railway. I'll put the date in down below. But it was one of the earliest roller coasters in the UK at the time. Probably not the first, but one of the first. So let's have a look at the museum, and then we'll take a look at the location of the Switchback Railway. There's lots of displays in here of how the rocks are formed in the area and what they're made out of, and also things that have been found on the rocks over the years, and some of the strange patterns in the stones that I was talking about, but also location of the original function of Shipley Glen, which was all the mining in the area. So you can see here all these little orange dots represent all the bell pits, and a little bit of information there as well on all the various Victorian attractions that used to be up here on the Glen, which we're taking a look at in these next few videos. So let's head down the side of Bracken Hall Countryside Centre, and I'm going to show you the location of the Switchback Railway, which was down the side of the building. Now this Switchback Railway, like I said, came from the Saltaire exhibition in the 1800s, and it was moved up here when they didn't need it any longer. But it was located right about here in front of us, so the station building would have been roughly where this patch of grass is in front, and it ran towards that barn at the back and back again. But what I'm going to do is do a photo fade taken from over here, looking at the station building here. So here we are further up the driveway now, and I'm stood roughly where the Switchback Railway would have been, in a line from over here and straight across there. So this would have been a piece of spare land back in the day next to the houses and the farm here. What I'm going to do now is do something a bit different. It's going to be a photo fade, but from a video. So we'll hopefully try capture the Switchback Railway from here. Now we aren't finished yet. There's still a couple more attractions, big ones, that were up here. One of them was the aerial flight, not to be confused with the aerial glide, which was further down. This was a suspended Victorian cable car system that ran on the top of the glen, and also a toboggan slide roller coaster that ran down the hillside, which was very steep. That'll be the next video, where we're going to go and find the remains of those attractions up here and hopefully find something that shows us exactly where those attractions were. But thanks for joining us in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.